Coming up, South Korean and U.S. combined forces fire a total of 4 ATACMS surface-to-surface missiles at a practice target in response to North Korea's intermediate-range ballistic missile launch on Tuesday morning. The Joint Chiefs of Staff says this shows South Korea's strength of defense over the North's missile threats. U.S. President Joe Biden and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida reaffirmed their commitment to Japan's defense and condemned the North's action following the North missile test that crossed Japan's airspace. We have what other world leaders said about the launch as well. Kremlin says it won't take part in the nuclear rhetoric set up by the West and its media. This as NATO warned its members of possible nuclear activities by Russia. Good morning. Welcome to New Day at Arirang. We begin as South Korea and the U.S. fired a total of 4 Army tactical missile system missiles toward a mock target in waters east of the Korean peninsula in response to North Korea's ballistic missile launch the previous day. This comes after South Korea dropped 2 joint direct attack munitions the day before in a show of force to deter further North Korean provocations. Our defense correspondent Bae Eun-ji starts us off this morning.
South Korea and the U.S. each fired 2 ATACMS surface-to-surface missiles toward waters east of the Korean peninsula in response to North Korea's intermediate-range ballistic missile launch the day before. Seoul's Joint Chiefs of Staff announced Wednesday that they precisely hit a mock target in the East Sea, which demonstrated the Allies' capabilities to deter further provocations from the North. It also said the tests showed that Seoul and Washington are capable of striking North Korean launch sites precisely. The military added that it's closely monitoring the situation to be ready for any additional launches by the North. This comes after the Allies also held a bombing drill on Tuesday evening, involving 4 South Korean F-15K fighters and 4 American F-16 warplanes flying in formation. One of the South Korean aircraft dropped 2 joint direct attack munitions that hit the uninhabited island of Jik-do, located off the west coast of South Korea. This type of weapon is effective in precision strikes.
The South Korean Air Force's F-15K fighters took part in a precision bombing training where they fired 2 air-to-surface joint direct attack munitions toward a fake target on Jik-do, an island located in the West Sea.
Following the North missile launch, South Korea's Defense Minister Lee Jong-sup held phone talks with his U.S. counterpart Lloyd Austin, where they agreed that the regime's provocation is a clear violation of UN Security Council resolutions. Seoul's defense ministry said the 2 officials also reaffirmed commitment to strongly respond to any kind of threats by North Korea, through ways such as deploying U.S. strategic assets on the Korean peninsula. Bae Eun-ji, Arirang News.
U.S. President Joe Biden and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida have condemned North Korea's test firing of a ballistic missile that flew over Japan. According to the White House, the 2 leaders talked over the phone on Tuesday. The statement also explained that Biden and Kishida condemned the missile test in the strongest terms, describing it as a clear violation of UN Security Council resolutions. In a 25-minute phone conversation, the 2 also agreed to bolster deterrence and response capabilities between what they called ironclad allies. The U.S. called North Korea's latest firing reckless and pledged continued action to guard international security. The EU also condemned the missile launch. China expressed hopes for a balanced resolution through dialogue. Kim Hyun-sung reports.
Dangerous and reckless is how the U.S. described North Korea's missile launch. The U.S. National Security Council issued a statement Monday local time denouncing the latest provocation. Spokesperson Adrienne Watson said it demonstrated the North's blatant disregard for UN Security Council resolutions and international safety norms. She also said National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan spoke with Japanese and South Korean counterparts about appropriate and robust joint and international responses. The European Council also spoke up. Charles Michel, the president of the EU, tweeted that he strongly condemns North Korea's deliberate attempt to jeopardize security and that such an action was an unjustified aggression and blatant violation of international law. He also made clear that the European body stands by South Korea and Japan. Belgian Foreign Minister Hadja Labib also tweeted about standing in solidarity, calling the latest firing ill-advised, dangerous, and shows a total disrespect for international rules. An expert said South Korea, the U.S., and Japan will now look to the UN Security Council to deter North Korea's threats. But he also said that any action may be insufficient with two major powers backing up North Korea.
China and Russia, they are not going to do anything. They are going to exercise one more time about the veto power to pass any kind of a resolution to put on the additional sanction on North Korea.
He even added that he sees it likely that North Korea's frequent missile launches this year have been fueled and inspired by Russia's war on Ukraine.
Overall, the Putin's Russia said very clearly that they are continuing to use the nuclear blackmail or a threat to use to the Ukraine and other European countries, and it makes the North Korea the more emboldened to use their nuclear blackmail.
Russia has not yet officially reacted to the launch, but China did in a written interview with Yonhap News Agency. China's foreign ministry said that it hopes for what it called a balanced resolution through talks and negotiation. Kim Hyun-sung, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, reports in the British media say that Russia has dispatched a convoy of vehicles from the unit in charge of the country's nuclear arsenal, including claims that video footage shows the convoy apparently making its way to Ukraine. Meanwhile, Washington played down the report, saying its nuclear posture remains unchanged. Kim Yo-sun has more.
A train operated by Russia's secretive nuclear division has reportedly left the country, apparently heading for Ukraine. Citing a Poland-based defense analyst, British newspaper The Times reported Monday that the train, which was spotted in central Russia, was linked to a division that is responsible for nuclear munitions, storage, maintenance, transport, and issuance to units. The article says this is seen as a, quote, signal to Western powers. President Vladimir Putin has already described his willingness to use any means to defend what it calls a Russian territory as his forces crumble, with Ukraine liberating the country's eastern and southern regions despite Russia's desperate attempt to annex them. Such rhetoric has raised the question of whether Russia would go as far as to use nuclear weapons. Following the report, the Kremlin explained Tuesday that it does not want to get involved with the, quote, nuclear rhetoric from the West.
You know, Western media, Western politicians, heads of state are now getting a lot of practice spreading nuclear rhetoric. We do not want to take part in it.
Meanwhile, Washington also says that it has no indication that Moscow is preparing to use nuclear weapons against Ukraine.
But I do want to say, that we have not seen any reason to adjust our own strategic nuclear posture, nor do we have indication that Russia is preparing to imminently use nuclear weapons.
In addition, the White House announced a new security assistance package to provide Ukraine with more weapons, ammunition, and equipment worth over $600 million. Kim Yo-sun, Arirang News.
Samsung Electronics is set to take a bold step forward as a game changer in chip manufacturing. The plan is to become the first in the world to mass produce 2 nanometer chips by 2025 and 1.4 nanometer chips by 2027. Ji-young provides us a glimpse of what to expect.
By 2027, Samsung Electronics will be the first company in the world to start mass producing 1.4 nanometer chips. The tech giant announced on Tuesday during its annual Samsung Foundry Forum event in Silicon Valley that it'll set new standards for the foundry or contract chip manufacturing industry.
By meeting with fabulous customers and partnering companies, I could sense their great interest, and I've once again seen the significant role played by Samsung's foundry.
In order to meet strong demand for advanced semiconductors used in applications including those for artificial intelligence and high-performance computing, Samsung will also more than triple its advanced chip production capacity by 2027. The announcement follows Samsung this June becoming the first company in the world to start mass producing semiconductors using a 3 nanometer process. it's currently the most advanced technology for installing the smallest circuits onto chips. By enhancing its gate-all-around transistor architecture newly applied for 3-nanometer chips, it also plans to introduce 2-nanometer chips in 2025. Samsung is currently the biggest player in the global memory chip market, but it's second place in the foundry market. According to market tracker TrendForce, Samsung's foundry market share is about 16%. The market is dominated by its Taiwanese competitor TSMC, which accounts for more than half by revenue. However, TSMC has not yet unveiled when it'll start mass-producing 1.4-nanometer chips. One expert says with a more advanced chip manufacturing process, Samsung is hoping to gain new clients ahead of TSMC in contract chip manufacturing.
By using the gate-all-around technology, Samsung has successfully become the world's first company to mass-produce 3-nanometer chips. With the same technology, producing 2 and 1.4-nanometer chips is possible. Thus, Samsung is trying to send out a message to customers like Qualcomm, Nvidia, and Intel that as it has better technology than TSMC, they should have contracts with Samsung.
But he added, to secure customers, Samsung should minimize its defect rate as well. 엄지영, Arirang News.
One of the biggest film festivals in Asia, the Busan International Film Festival, will kick off tonight with its opening ceremony. And for the next 10 days, around 350 films from around the world will be shown on 30 screens at 7 theaters in the Busan area. The festival is returning full scale without social distancing for the first time since the pandemic began. Events like discussions and parties will be held and seats at theaters will not be spaced out. Also this year, more OTT films will be shown and members of the public will have a chance to make their own short films and documentaries. Industry elite from around the globe are set to attend, including actor Tony Leung and Hollywood producer John Landau. The festival will run until October 14th. The Embassy of India in Seoul has kicked off a cultural festival to introduce India's diverse heritage to people in Korea. The festival, called SARANG, the Festival of India in Republic of Korea, was first held in 2015 and returns in person after a 2-year hiatus due to the pandemic. SARANG in Korean means love, while in Indian it refers to diversity representing different colors of India. As part of the celebration, performances of traditional Indian dance and music, as well as Indo-Korean fusion music, are being held in cities across Korea. A photo exhibition highlighting India's humanitarian assistance during the Korean War is also being held on Nami Island. The festival will run until October 14th, and all events are open to the public. October 5th is officially Korean Day, a day that celebrates the more than 7 million Koreans living overseas. Across the world, there are events to mark the occasion and bring Koreans together. Now, let's connect with Chris Kim, the Peaceful Unification Advisory Council's Orange County San Diego chapter president. Good afternoon to you.
Hello, how are you, everyone?
So first, a Day of Korean Overseas. While not an official holiday in the U.S., what does having a day like this mean to you as a Korean American?
It means a lot, even though here USA is not recognized the public holiday. I know Korea celebrating this big day. A lot of Federal Korean American Association USA presidents, they are visiting now. They celebrate last few days. They holding the World Korean President's Day. And I know the Foreign Ministry, they set this day, October 5th, as World Korean Day. And this means a lot to all the Korean overseas.
Right. And now, speaking about people overseas, recently Korean culture has been spreading quickly across the globe, with the likes of BTS and Squid Game making world headlines. Has this helped to give Korean Americans in the U.S. a stronger voice in the community, especially during some tough times like COVID-19?
As you know, during the COVID-19 pandemic, there is anti-Asian crimes all over the United States. And right after that, as you mentioned, big Korean cultures came, and Parasite movie got Academy the best pictures. And this helps a lot. It raises the pride of Asian, especially Korean. I just visited UC San Diego, which is my territory. I tried to make a MOU between UC San Diego and one of a Korean university. And people over there says American university college person, they are very interested to go to visit a foreign country, and Korea is number 2 or 3. And she mentioned that this is Squid Game and BTS and Blackpink, and this cultural and K-pop is influencing a lot of young people, definitely in the United States. So it helps, it influences, and it gives more pride to Korean American here in the United States.
Now, the current administration will likely push for an agency for overseas Koreans around the world. Do you see such support from the South Korean government as necessary as a Korean American?
Definitely. Many other countries like Israel, India, even China, they have this agency for their own peoples overseas. With this establishing of agency, I think Korean government can communicate effectively, efficiently with overseas Koreans in terms of their visa petition. And this over 7 million overseas Korean can be a big factor. I just saw the news. This world is rapidly changing with nuclear bomb possibilities. And many overseas Korean can communicate, open the dialogue and diplomatic effort. And as you know, many Koreans has a plan to go to the Washington, D.C. and talk to politicians. And the only way to resolve this is a peaceful diplomatic dialogue. And I'm sure that many overseas Korean can contribute this dialogue. And I hope through this agency, Korean overseas promote this communication.
That's right. Fingers crossed for the government restructuring plan to come in the near future. Well, thank you so much for your insight today, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you. God bless America. God bless Korea.
Thank you. For a look at the news from around the world, we now turn to our Matthew Ashley standing by at the Arirang newsroom. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Do-yeon.
Let's start in the U.S. as the death toll keeps rising days after the passing of Hurricane Ian.
Well, that's right. As of Tuesday, at least 102 people have been found dead in Florida alone, as rescue teams go door to door looking for survivors of one of the worst storms to hit the U.S. state. Now, 4 further deaths were also reported in North Carolina. So far, over half the deaths in Florida were in Lee County, the area that was heavily hit when the storm made landfall as a Category 4 hurricane. Florida's governor said on Tuesday that over 2,300 rescues were conducted and that 79,000 buildings have been checked. But the number of people missing is still unknown. Meanwhile, some officials of significantly impacted regions are under scrutiny for not giving residents an earlier evacuation warning. At least 15 people have been killed and 33 injured in a gang fight in one of Ecuador's largest prisons. The violence erupted at Cotopaxi No. 1 jail in Latacunga on Monday night, local time, following a census of inmates. Now, prisoners used knives and guns in the fighting, which flared up again on Tuesday morning, leaving another 11 injured. The government has blamed the violence on infighting between gangs over territory and drug trafficking routes. The incident is the latest in a series of such riots in Ecuador's prisons. As of February 2021, over 400 inmates have been killed in such fighting. In yet another U-turn in the Elon Musk Twitter takeover saga, Musk has reportedly agreed to buy Twitter after all. In a letter sent to the social media company on Tuesday, Musk's lawyers said the Tesla CEO will go through with the deal initially made in April. This comes after Musk tried to back out of the $44 billion agreement in July, citing concerns over spam accounts and other issues. Now, Twitter denied the accusations and filed a lawsuit to force the takeover, with the first hearing due in mid-October. Musk's letter has asked that the lawsuit be halted. In response, Twitter said it plans to finalize the deal at the original selling price of $54.2 per share. Following the news, Twitter's share price surged to close at $52 a share, before trading close after having opened at $43. And in our final story, the Queen of Country Music, Loretta Lynn, passed away on Tuesday, aged 90. The iconic American singer is best known for her 1971 hit, Coal Miner's Daughter, which was turned into an Oscar-winning movie. Starting in 1960, Lynn released over 100 songs in her decades-long career, with some tracks addressing controversial topics, including birth control pills and double standards faced by women. Lynn's success saw her inducted into the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame in 1983, and then to the Country Music Hall of Fame in 1988. She even received the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2013 from then U.S. President Barack Obama.
Good morning. Cloudy skies to start the day. Sunshine is trying really hard to come out from behind the clouds in the capital. But east of Gangwon-do province is forecast to see on and off rain through Friday, possibly getting up to 100 millimeters of heavy showers. It's a chilly start to the day. Morning temperatures in most parts are 3 to 8 degrees lower than the same time yesterday, and highs will not also rise that much, getting up to just 18 degrees Celsius here in Seoul. Well, I saw some people still wearing t-shirts yesterday, but dressed warmer today. Daegu will top out at 21 degrees, about 5 degrees lower than yesterday. Gwangju and Busan will be topping out at 22 degrees Celsius under mostly cloudy skies with some passing rain. Now, the season's coldest morning is forecast for this Saturday here in Seoul, but until then, we'll be under cloudier skies for the remainder of the week. So those visiting Korea around this time really should dress accordingly so as not to catch a cold. With that, here's a look at the weather conditions around the globe.
And that wraps up today's New Day at Arirang. We'll be back tomorrow for our Thursday's edition at the same time. Please stay with Arirang News throughout the day for more updates. Have a lovely day or evening wherever you are, and take care.